Welcome to AI Seeking the Truth. I am your host, Thomas. Joining me on occasion will be my co-host, wife, and best friend, Amanda. I would like to first thank Mike for the opportunity taking on this channel. Amanda and I hope to continue bringing you all the stories and encounters that will help us all in seeking the truth. Please continue to send stories to abnormalinvestigations77@gmail.com. Mike has agreed to send some of your stories our way, and we will also be sharing a few of our own stories we have collected and heard in our own research. Today's story comes from a woman who lived out of a small town in Ohio. I grew up in a broken home. My father was rarely around, and when he was, it was assumed to stay far away from him due to his drunken anger and abusive outbursts. My mother did her best to protect me and my four siblings, but as the eldest, I seemed to never be able to avoid receiving the worst of all the fallout from their fighting. We lived on the outskirts of a very small town. Due to the population, I will only say that this was in Ohio. The summer I had turned 15 was particularly bad. My father had lost his job at the factory. Mom took on a part-time job working third shift at the gas station truck stop off the interstate. On the nights that she was working, it was my responsibility to make dinner and tend to my younger sister and brothers. This was the best option, since my father, even though unemployed, still had to have his 24-pack of High Life every day and would be passed out drunk by 5 p.m. on a good day. On the evening of the encounter, it was one of those not good days that had turned into not good nights. My mom was running behind and the car wouldn't start, so she had to walk into work, which was about a 5-mile hike. Dad was on a rampage about why his life was a mess because of my mom and us kids. Mom left off to walk her 5 miles into truck stop. Although the day had been hot, the evening was cooling off, as we had been expecting a storm to hit come early morning. The cold front was moving in, and it was still a little warm to be walking 5 miles into work. Mom refused to call for a ride, since my father was in one of his fits. It was midsummer and the sun was still giving off enough light for her to walk in. I had just finished cleaning up dinner mess and getting the kids ready for bed when my father came into the house, slamming things around in the kitchen. He had sliced his hand working on the car. Needless to say, don't try and use sharp, heavy tool when pissed, drunk, and angry. My sister and brothers ran to their room to feign being asleep to avoid Dad's wrath, while I quietly slipped out the side door, hoping to go undetected. The time was about 9:30, 9:45, I believe, not quite 10. I knew with the way the events were going, he would not be crashing out anytime soon. I could either hide out on the side of the house or go for a walk and hope he was out by the time I returned. So I decided to go for a walk. Our house was set back off a long gravel drive with not much around but open farmland. If I took a left, I would walk into town, which consisted of one four-way stop. If I took a right, I would head towards the truck stop where Mom was working. I got to the end of the drive, still hearing the cussing and slamming coming from the house. I took a right. I know you may be thinking, how could I leave my siblings alone with him in a rage? Trust me when I tell you, they knew they were safer playing as if they were asleep. They all knew. If I returned to the house, broken objects in the kitchen would be the least of my worries. The rest of the night's events were what had given me worse nightmares than anything my father's drunken rages ever have. I can't tell you if it was a full moon or not, but replaying this in my memory over and over, it seems as though my eyesight was almost perfect for not having a flashlight. The temps were beginning to drop from earlier. There was a slight breeze, I remember. It was picking up. Because I wished I had grabbed my baseball cap on my way out the door. My hair was blowing in my face and beginning to agitate me. The road I was heading down was not a straight road. It had a slight curve around a creek bend. The land to my right turned into wooded area, but on my left was still open field farmland. At the time, it was filled with corn the farmers had planted for the season. I remember thinking how beautiful it looked as the wind blew to see the corn come alive and dance along with the blowing wind. Couldn't tell you how long I had been walking, but I had turned my attention back ahead of the walk in front of me when I caught a whiff of what smelled like rotten meat. I glanced around to see if I was coming up on roadkill and could see nothing. I figured it must be off to the side of the road more, just was unable to see it. It had been nothing I hadn't smelled once before. Continuing to walk, the wind blew, and another burst of rotted death and meat hit me again. This time it was so strong, I stopped in my tracks. It was a mix of rotted death, sewage, feces, and what I could only describe as a burning smell that made me think of cat urine. The odor was so strong and putrid, I had to hold back the bile and vomit rising into my throat. I spun around thinking I had to be right on top of it since the smell was so worse than the last. My focus at the time was on the wooded area to my right. While scanning the woodline as best I could, I had the sudden feeling I was being watched. That chill, that cold feeling that ran down the base of my neck, down my spine. Something in my mind told me to turn and turn very slowly and not make any quick movements. The cold that ran down my neck and spine made my hands and arms feel completely numb. I slowly turned to the left, facing the direction of the cornfield. At this moment, everything seemed to play in slow motion. The wind blew across the corn. The stalks danced like waves around the crowd of a baseball game, moving beautifully, flowing every last stalk, except for the void of darkness in between the stalks. This darkness seemed to rise up from the depths of the waves. It was not directly in front of me, still off to the left, as I could see it from the corner of my eye, slowly still turning my head. It was watching me as I had been walking. The night was dark, but there had to have been light as I'm thinking back. Whatever this was blacker than black, darker than night. It was a black hole in the darkness. Whatever light had been shining was being swallowed up into the depths of whatever this demon creature was. That's what it had to have been. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. That's what it had to be, right? This was much too big to be a person. And the eyes that stared at me. When I say this thing was massively wide, the head alone had to be as large as my upper body, if not bigger. This was nothing I had ever seen before. This creature let out what I can only describe as a deep, low growl. My entire body vibrated. Looking back now, it's what I would describe the sound of an alligator rumbling in the waters. I couldn't breathe. I felt as though I lost my breath completely. It reminded me when I was in grade school playing dodgeball, got hit in the back of the chest so hard, I lost my breath and couldn't breathe. It took me a moment, gasping for air. I stood there staring at this void of darkness, Trying to get my bearing, this thing rose up from the cornfield. I say it rose up. It had to have been standing about 50 feet from me. Could not see much but the silhouette. I can't say for certain what this was, but I can say it was nothing that I have ever seen since or have ever been able to find a likeness of. The ears were pointed off to the side of its head and up, similar to a dog, but this was not a dog. This was not a wolf. This was not a coyote. Again, I couldn't make out the features, but the silhouette. This was not an animal that we had ever seen in our area. The eyes glowed. The creature took what seemed to be one slow, stalking step forward towards me, like a cat stalking its prey. Her eyes locked onto me. I was not able to take my eyes off of it. I tried. I was frozen. It stood there and did a second low growl, as if daring me to run. This time, my body and chest vibrated under the growl. I tried to regain my breath one more time. I thought in these moments, this was how I was going to die. Nobody knew where I was, unable to breathe, unable to run, unable to scream. No one knew I was here. No one would know where to find me. No one would find my body. This thing was not going to leave anything behind. The creature again began to move as two rapid movements of steps towards me again. The speed, the motions, the movement. It felt unnatural. It looked unnatural. My ears began to ring. My vision went fuzzy. Was I going blind? The chill ran throughout my entire body. I was unsure at this moment. Was I breathing? Was I not? Was I already dead? It took another moment for me to realize I was standing directly in the middle of the high beams of a pickup truck. The driver was laying on his horn, heading right towards me. I snapped out of what seemed like a trance, still staring at the cornfield, the headlights rising up on top of me, the horn blaring in my ear. As I stared into the cornfield, afraid to take my eyes off of what I had seen, to look at the truck. If it hit me, at least that would be fast. It was gone. The stock were blowing in the wind, unhindered by any dark foreign objects. This was not a mistaken identity of something that had been standing in the field due to lack of light. This was not a scarecrow or a tree stump. What had been there was now gone. The amber eyes were now gone. The growl was now gone, replaced with the wailing of the horn coming down the road. I glanced to the side of the truck heading my way, still unwanting to take my eyes off the cornfield. The driver finally took his hand off the horn and yelled my name out the window, told me to get my ass in the truck before my mom whooped both our asses. I realized only that it was my cousin Jay. Jay, where had he come from? I didn't understand, didn't care. Without turning my back to the field, I walked towards the passenger side, pulled open the door, jumped in. Jay did the fastest right turn I'd ever seen anyone pull off and headed back in the direction he'd come, straight back towards the truck stop. The rest of the journey was quick considering we were in the truck. Neither of us said anything to each other. Jay pulled up to the stop, parked, turned off the truck. I sat there staring inside the stop. I could see my mom inside. She had been cleaning. She must have realized we pulled up because she stopped as soon as she saw the headlights turn off. There was not much at the truck stop. The few trucks that were there were pulled off to the side due to the impending weather. Jay got out of the truck, walked around to my side of the door, and opened it. I heard something about shower. All I could do was nod my head. Jay punched me in my right arm, and I turned to look at him. You need to take a shower, kid. You stink. You smell like piss, and it's all over my truck. You owe me. I looked down and realized I had pissed myself at some point and not even realized it. I hopped out of the cab, apologized. He said, don't worry about it. Get your ass inside. Storm's here. I got inside where my mom got me a change of clothes from the back. She kept it there for when things got messy at work. I went to take a shower. It wasn't long after arriving, but after my shower, the storm hit with ferocity. It was bad. The truck stop lost power, and Mom and I sat in the glowing of the backup generator. The generator was basically to keep the freezer and refrigerator items safe. I asked her how Jay knew. How did he know to pick me up? How was he there? She explained that she had been followed down the road by something that night. On her way in, she hadn't seen anything, hadn't smelled anything, hadn't heard anything, but she just felt it. Felt like something was walking along the woodline the last half of her walk into work. It scared her something terrible, but she couldn't understand why. She couldn't see anything. She could feel it. She knew it was there. Something. But she couldn't see anything. Had she been hearing something, she wasn't sure. She thought it was just her imagination. Or maybe not, but something was unsettling to her. She knew something had to. She proceeded to tell me when she had gotten into work, she got lost in the work, and forgot about it. Jay showed up shortly after she arrived at the truck stop. He informed my mom that my dad had called. Dad was pissed off that I was missing. The car took a shit in the drive, and he couldn't go look for me. Jay figured I'd walk up to the truck stop, and that's where he was going to sit and wait for me to show up. Dad could whip my ass when I got back home. However, Jay gave Mom a wide-eyed look though, and Mom said, "Jay, I think something paralleled on my way in." He didn't hesitate. He ran directly to the truck, jumped in, and the truck peeled out of the lot faster than the Duke boys. We don't know to this day what it was or what I actually saw or heard. I thank God Jay didn't hesitate 1 second that night. Mom never walked to work again. But 3 days later, a trucker was run off the road after hitting what he described as must have been a damn bull that got loose. The front end of his semi-truck looked like it hit a brick wall. Jay later told us Highway Patrol said the trucker was lucky to be alive. Whatever he hit must have run off, but it destroyed the front end, ran the truck off the road. The truck had jackknifed the trailer and flipped the entire thing on its side off into the ditch. According to rumors, there was little to no blood, no animal fur or flesh. Explain that. How does soft tissue tear up and rip through metal? The front end of a semi, leaving scraps and heaps of metal, and no trace of a body. We never did tell my sister or brothers about the incident or what had happened. In fact, they still don't know of this incident to this day. All they do know is that one night, all that long time ago, they were never allowed out after dark. From that day on, never again.